very warm welcome to you all in this beautiful home of Sangeeta ji and Gopal ji Narang. And on their behalf, I would like to take the pleasure and privilege and honor of welcoming His Holiness Radhanath Swami. We are indeed extremely honored today to have him in our midst. And some of you may already know him as ISKCON spiritual leader, motivational speaker, and the author of the New York Times bestseller, The Journey Home. Have any of you read his book, The Journey Home? Yes, many of you. And for those who haven't, I urge you please to do pick up a copy of it, which will be available at the end of the program, and read it, because it is a book that has changed many of our lives. And more recently, he has written the book, The Journey Within, which is also on the best-selling list. Of course, Radhanath Swami is all these things: motivational speaker, ISKCON leader. But apart from that, he is much, much more. To many of us, me personally and my family, and some of us present here, he has been our philosopher, our guide, our guiding light, our ever well-wishing friend, and our guru. And for that, we remain ever grateful to him, because he has been the inspiration in our lives, the inspiration for us to lead a life less ordinary. And His Holiness himself has had a very extraordinary and remarkable journey, which he has written about in his book, The Journey Home. And this talks about when he was only 19, he was a young boy in Chicago, having all the creature comforts and a good life with his parents and siblings. And yet, he felt he had to do something more to make this world a better place. And so he embarked on a journey, a perilous journey, all the way from Chicago. He flew to England, London, and there he started a very remarkable hitchhiking journey all the way across Europe, across Asia Minor, coming to India, because he had been constantly hearing a voice in his heart which told him, go to India. And on this very severe journey, which he did penniless, he did not have any money, he risked his life on so many occasions, and he nearly got himself killed several times. And yet, that did not deter him. He kept on until he finally came to the border of Pakistan and India. And there, he begged the immigration officer, who actually would not let him in, because they said, our country has enough beggars. India doesn't need any more. You can stay out. But he pleaded. He said, sir, please let me enter your great country of India, because one day I will do something for the people of India. And since that historic journey, since his entering India, which has been almost 4 decades ago, His Holiness Radhanath Swami has kept his word and done a lot for us and our country. he has basically inspired people, brought people together in the service, in the mood of service and compassion, and engaged ordinary people to do extraordinary things in various service projects. Some of them I will enlist. They are the Bhaktivedanta Hospital and Research Center in Mira Road. Then the Bhaktivedanta Hospice for terminally ill and dying patients in Vrindavan. He has also set up the midday meal program, Anamrita, as we know it, which every single school day, it serves 1.2 million cooked, nutritious, healthy, hygienic meals to underprivileged children studying in schools across the country. He has also initiated the Barsana Rural Eye Camp in a small village in UP, where thousands of free cataract surgeries are conducted for the villagers every year. And also near Mumbai, we have the Govardhan Eco Village. Perhaps some of you may have visited or heard. And for those who haven't, please do visit. This is a wonderful initiative inspired by Radhanath Swami, where the principles of simple living and high thinking have come together in this eco-village, which is a spiritual retreat for all of us. So these are only some of his projects, and we are indeed fortunate to be connected in some manner, shape or form to lead lives less ordinary, to lead lives in a spirit of service and compassion. Thank you so much. I now request His Holiness to please address us. Thank you.
It is truly my honor and pleasure to be with all of you this evening. Very special, heartfelt gratitude to this wonderful family who have opened the doors to their home on this very auspicious night. Thank you. I have been, by Krishna's grace, living in India as more or less for 48 years now. I came in 1970. When I first arrived, I was really a stranger in a foreign land by social estimation. As our dear Namamrita Devi was explaining, I did not have any money. I crossed the border. It was already dark outside in Firozpur from Pakistan. I went over through the no man's land. It was not in a city area. It was just agricultural fields and forests. I was walking through these fields. There was a moon, there was stars. I didn't know which way to go. I wasn't on a road, I was just in a field. The first Indian person I ever met in my life was the border guard at the border. Because in this Before the 70s, there were hardly any Indian people in the United States. And the first I met was not friendly, forbid me to enter. But I was walking through that field, not knowing where to go, not knowing anyone. I never felt so at home. I felt I was being embraced by my mother. I felt every star was blessing me. Every leaf and every tree was blessing me. I truly felt at home, more than ever before in my life. And this evening, before coming up to this beautifully decorated terrace, I sat for some time with the family. Such a united family, so much affection, centered around, the higher principles of each other. It is the legacy, it is the heritage of India. It is what India has to really contribute to the world. The principles of Dharma. The principles of Dharma that keeps families together. The principles of Dharma where we do our work with integrity. We earn with integrity. We spend with compassion. We understand the vision of the sages, the rishis, the kings, the families of India have preserved over the centuries. That real wealth, real success is the integrity of our lives, the character we live. There's a foundation we build our life on, and that's principles. Greed, arrogance, selfishness, envy, anger, unnecessary anger born of an unsatisfied mind and senses. These are principles that have grown in this age of Kali Yuga to be heroic. Someone who becomes powerful, successful, famous, wealthy, based on cheating, greed, arrogance, all over the world. These people are considered heroes. But actually, from a perspective of truth, from the perspective of a civilized heart, and this is universal, such people are pathetic because they have poverty in their hearts. A rich heart is a heart that is rich with love and compassion. A poverty-stricken heart is a heart that's struck by the disease of greed, selfishness, and therefore true love and true compassion cannot exist. Even so-called love becomes selfish. This is the greatness of India. People live for higher principles. Two of the greatest epics of our Indian culture are the Mahabharata and Ramayana. In traditional Indian homes, children are told stories from Ramayana and Mahabharata, sometimes every day. People are brought up understanding not just the stories, but the messages, the principles that the stories inspire. So obviously, Mahabharata is 100,000 verses, Ramayana is very long, so we can't speak so much tonight. But I'd like to discuss very briefly a specific parallel line of thought that are common in both. The characters of Vidura and Vibheesana. Vidura was the younger brother of Dhritarashtra. Vidura was a man of Dharma, a man of real character. He was fair, and he was actually everyone's well-wisher. He saw Dhritarashtra due to attachment to his son. He didn't try to discipline his son. He spoiled his son miserably. Duryodhana was envious, greedy, selfish, and was willing to get what he wanted by any means. Even if it meant murdering his own auntie, Kunti, who loved him like her own son. Murdering his own cousin brothers, Yudhisthira, who was never anything but a well-wisher to him. And Dhritarashtra went along with everything. He was responsible. Dhritarashtra was blind physically, blind morally, and blind spiritually. Under Dhritarashtra's rule, Draupadi, who was the symbol of Dharma, of devotion, she was exploited, she was abused. And if not for Krishna's intervention, she would have been abused far more than she was. Vidura was always giving Dhritarashtra good advice. But Dhritarashtra would not listen because of selfish attachments. Vidura was always giving Duryodhana good advice. And ultimately Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, because of Vidura's good advice, trying to lead his brother and his nephew on the path of morality, truth, and dharma, he was verbally abused, and he was exiled. His house, his family, his everything was taken away. He was nothing but a well-wisher. He was compassionate toward everyone. But he stood up for the truth at any cost. He lived with Dharma at any cost. Vidura is one of the greatest of all heroes. In the great scriptures of the Vedas. And ultimately, after the Pandavas were victorious in Kurukshetra, Vidura returned to spiritually enlighten his own brother, Dhritarashtra, who violently turned against him. He came back and saved his life. Similarly, Vibhishan. He was the younger brother of Ravana. Ravana was selfish, he was greedy, he was exploitative, he was violent. And Vibhishan was always giving him good advice, but never listened. He lived by such principles. When Hanumanji jumped across the ocean and came to Sri Lanka, he assumed a little form about the size of a cat, little monkey form, very small. He was searching for Sita. He saw Ravana's palace. It was so beautiful. And he saw how Ravana was just such an arrogant, greedy, immoral person. As Duryodhana tried to, and Dhritarashtra allowed Draupadi to be abused, Ravana stole Sita, the supreme goddess of fortune. Again, the symbol of chastity and purity and goodness. When Hanuman saw how Vibhishan was living, he had power, he had knowledge, but he was living with such humility, compassion, and devotion. And he was never afraid to tell Ravana what was the truth, even though at every step he was rejected. He never gave up. He was truly a well-wisher of Ravana, his brother. As evil as he was, he wanted to change him. And ultimately, at a certain point, Ravana, like what Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana did to Vidura, he kicked Vibhishan out of the kingdom and took everything away from him. Vibhishan went to Ram out of love for his brother, out of compassion to Sita. And he helped Ram. And eventually, when Ravana was killed, Vibhishan did the last rites for him. Vibhishan, like Vidura, helped his elder brother to gain liberation. And then Vibhishan became king. He ruled armies. He taxed citizens. Being a king is an enormous responsibility. He didn't go to the forest just to meditate. He did something higher. The very basis of the Gita is we perform our duty with devotion, with compassion, with integrity. And unfortunately, even people in India sometimes ask, how will we not get cheated and trampled on if we live by Dharma in politics, in the business world, even in the educational world? It's like a dog-eat-dog world. How do you succeed? But the incredible thing about the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam, all these great histories, is it speaks about people who were most competitive, most efficient, most courageous, and most successful. But their lives were built on integrity, character, and love for God, love for Ram, Krishna. Because they had a foundation. Most important part of a building is a foundation. We don't see it. Right now we're on the terrace, the top part, and we're sitting very comfortably, and we're very happy. It's so nice. We're thinking such beautiful wooden floor and marbles, and nice trees, champak trees with flowers blooming, and nice furnitures. And up here, not many of us are thinking, what a beautiful foundation is under us. Because the foundation is not visibly seen, but it's supporting everything that's visibly seen. If you build a magnificent house without a strong foundation, when a storm comes, it crumbles to the ground. Whether you build a simple little hut or a massive skyscraper building, if it has a strong foundation, any storm will come and it stands. Problem in the world is people don't have proper foundations in their lives. What is the foundation of our life? It's the values that we hold sacred. That's the most important responsibility of a family, is to imbibe and preserve generation after generation the foundation of high values. From a philosophical perspective, from a scientific perspective, what is high values? We have a body, we have a mind, but who am I? The body's always changing, from childhood to youth to old age. Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam chara, the Bhagavad Gita tells. But we are the same person, witnessing all these changes of the body. Some of us here tonight are very young, just looking forward to what we can accomplish in life. And some of us are getting really old, and we're thinking, what have I done with my life? What have I actually given to my family and to the world? But the baby and the grandfather, grandmother, great-grandfather, grandmother, the soul is the same through all these changes. Najayate mriyate vakadachat. Because the Atma, the living force that is animating, that is giving us the power, the person that's seeing through our eyes and hearing through our ears, the Bhagavad Gita tells, is eternal. Mamaivam so jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana. The living force is a part of God. Sanatana Dharma is to harmonize our occupation, our relationships, with our true Dharma. What is the Jaiva Dharma, the Dharma of the soul? It's to serve with love. When we realize our potential, the prema, that is our true wealth, hidden somewhere within our hearts, is this prema, this divine love. The essence of every religion is to discover and awaken that divine love that's within us. Krishna prema, love for Krishna. And the fulfillment, the ananda of that love is our true happiness. That's within us. That's beyond birth and it's beyond death. It's real. As we connect to that foundation of inner fulfillment, inner love, it expresses as compassion, fearless compassion. Compassion that doesn't make us weak. It makes us truly strong. But not strong to exploit. Strong to actually benefit others. When the storms of temptation, when the storms of fear come, and they come, because the world has so many seasons that could come at any moment. We need a strong foundation to actually truly be happy through those situations, to truly give other people through their happiness through their situations, and to live with dignity, with character. And to teach our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren that this is what the real wealth of life is, this character. And it's so interesting that most of the examples in the Vedic scriptures of people who live like this are queens and kings and very powerful leaders of society. And then there's also the sadhus. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there was a sadhu named Durvasa. And he became very angry at Ambarish. Ambarish was a husband and a father. He was in politics. Durvasa Muni, because of a misconception that he was insulted, Ambarish was doing nothing but trying to give gracious hospitality to Durvasa, who came to his house. But sometimes sadhus can get irrational. And he was so insulted by a mistake. He wanted to kill Ambarish. And Ambarish, he had no fear. He had only compassion to Durvasa. And eventually, you probably all know the story, the world will forever know how wonderful this father and husband was, what a great saint he is, and how unfortunately covered over this sadhu was. What is a sadhu in truth? A sadhu is one who lives with character. We may be swamis, we may be mothers, we may be in business, we may be farmers, engineers, scientists, doctors, lawyers. These are all details. Every one of these different positions in society are required for society. But like there are many parts of the body, all the parts of the body serve their function for the purpose of the benefit of the whole body. It's not that the heart is thinking it's all about me. The heart is providing blood for every cell of the body. It's not that the stomach thinks, well, I have all the food, I'm going to just keep it for myself. If the stomach does that, the stomach's eventually going to suffer. For a little while, he's going to think, oh, see how powerful I am. Everyone's depending on me. But a healthy stomach provides to every cell of the body nourishment. The competition of the various parts of the body is how to get as much benefits to every other part of the body. Hanuman was a brahmachari. He lived in a cave. Vibheesana, later on, he was a king, lived in a royal golden palace. But they were united. They respected each other. Why? Because they all had this inner foundation of peace and fulfillment based on spiritual principles. To give is to love. In the principles of Dharma, when we take, we only take to share. We don't take to keep. Taking to keep is a diseased condition that brings about fear, anxiety, arrogance, greed, envy, no peace, no true love. When we take in an honorable way, even if it's competitive, for the purpose of sharing it. If we have fame, we use our fame to share something good for society. If we have wealth, we use our wealth to share something good with society. If we have skills, we do the same. That's a healthy human being. You see, the greatest teacher is a good example. To actually care. Caring is a responsibility for the body, for the mind, for the soul. I was sharing in the car today with Gopal, and your son's name is? Advaita. We were discussing India, up until more modern times, has always been the beacon light for knowledge, for hope, for spiritual enlightenment for the world. In 1969-70, I hitchhiked all the way to India, not to learn engineering. I didn't come here for any other reason except to find truth, to find enlightenment. And this has been the contribution of India to the world forever. But somehow or other, people of India, to a large extent, have forgotten the real wealth, the real treasure. My guru, Srila Prabhupada, he left Vrindavan He was living there for many years. He is a sannyasi, a swami. He left to go to New York City. He was approximately 70 years old. He went on a cargo ship. Not to take anything, to give the wealth of India's great legacy of spiritual knowledge. And because he was such an example of selfless service, I remember he came to Mumbai. He came back just a few years later, and he was speaking to some of the business people of Mumbai. He said, I left India at the age of 70 with 40 rupees. And now I'm the leader of a society that's, and this is back in 1971 he said this. He said it's making over 40 lakhs every day. Something like that. But he didn't claim anything to be his own. He was doing everything to share with others. When he went to London in 1969, he was asked, why have you come here? We have our own religion. We have our own society. Why have you come? Srila Prabhupada said, the British from London ruled over India for almost 200 years. And in those 200 years, almost all the wealth of India, as much as you can get, you brought it to London. But you forgot one thing. The greatest of all the treasures of India. You forgot to take it. India's culture. I have come to give you freely what you forgot to take. Because the Vedic literatures are so deep, they're so profound, they're universal. One who understands properly, it's inclusive, can harmonize all the various true religious principles. And that's why so many of these Western people accepted. It's what people are looking for. A culture based on an integrity, a character, and spiritual principles that are truly scientific, deep, and inclusive. This is what the great kings and queens, this is what the great sages of India lived by. And preserved by families. Now, today, once again, India is becoming very strong from an economic and scientific and political and social perspective. When I came in 1970, India was considered one of the weakest, most forsaken countries on the planet. If somebody came here then, they were just coming for enlightenment. Now, I know of multi-billionaires in California, and they're kind of old. And because they have so much wealth, every part of their body, they have a select different specialist doctor. And they tell me every doctor they have has to be from India. And these are American people. These are white, Anglo-Saxon, American type people. Because there's no one who could be a doctor like people from India. software industry, how India is transforming the world, the financial industry. There are people in the Congress now from India, some of the most respected in America and London. Yes, India is now becoming a major force of progress for the world. So the people of India now have the greatest opportunity through their professions, through their interactions, to actually exemplify, teach by example, these sacred principles of Dharma, of true character. Hanuman was not lazy. He was a true devotee. Hanuman was the humblest of all humble people, but he was fearless, and nothing could stop him from winning. But it was different than Ravana. Ravana wanted to exploit Sita, and Hanuman wanted to bring Sita back to Ram. So these are very hopeful times. And I want to thank this wonderful family for having such beautiful, wonderful spiritual values. If we put Krishna in the center of our lives, of our relationships, of our occupations, then everything becomes truly auspicious. We have something deeply meaningful, purposeful, valuable to live for, to share with our loved ones, and to share with the world. And what is that? Sanatana Dharma. The love for Krishna that is within our hearts. This chanting of God's names is especially recommended in Kali Yuga for awakening this love. We can all establish and sustain this foundation in our lives by three simple principles, eternal principles: satsang, sadhana, and sadachar. Satsang is to be with people who truly inspire faith in the right thing. To be with true sadhus. And a true sadhu could be a businessman or woman, could be a student. It's somebody who's living by the principles of devotion. People who uplift us. We could share it in our own family, satsang, to come together for this higher purpose, this higher spiritually enlightening cause. When we regularly meet with high-minded people, we develop faith that there is something sacred in life that is within me and that I can be a part of. And then we have sadhana. We have a spiritual practice every day through our chanting of mantras, through our puja, through our prayers, to reconnect us to that treasure within us, to reconnect us with our soul, to reharmonize the body, the mind with our true self, to reconnect us with Krishna. And then sadachar, when we have that faith-inspiring association, when we have that regular daily practice, then we apply it to our life. Sadachara means character. To integrate our values into how we interact with people and how we perform our occupation in life. Sadachara means integrity, character. And seva. Then the greatest joy in life is how we could uplift others. Thank you very much. Would anyone like to ask any question? I think you had a question before.
So I was trying to ask you earlier, when we close our eyes and we want to sit and pray, the mind moves in two directions. One is actually racing fast, and probably you feel that you're traveling somewhere. And at that point in time, you want to somehow manage to look inside instead of traveling outside. And you're left in that empty space and you're not able to figure how do you want to go inside. And that's the question that keeps coming to me whenever I sit down to pray. Is there an answer you can give me or a direction for that?
You're saying that the mind wants to race outside?
Mind is moving in both directions and then it stays static because you don't want to go outside and you want to go inside.
Let us take Hanuman, for example. He prayed. And that prayer, he harmonized both the inside and the outside. Yes? He was connecting to Ram within his heart through his meditation and prayer, and he was also connecting with Ram through his actions. When he was fighting with his club, every swing of his club was a connection with Ram because it was seva. When he was jumping over the ocean, he was traveling. He wasn't going away from Ram. He was going toward Ram because he was going there for Ram. When we chant a mantra, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and our mala. Sometimes they're called prayer beads. Because as we're chanting, the prayerful mood that we have is, Hare is Radha, the divine feminine aspect of the one supreme truth. The mother of love, the mother of devotion, the mother of compassion. Hare. So we're praying Shri Radha, Shri Krishna, Ram, the giver of all pleasure. Please engage me in serving you with love. That's the prayer of the Maha-Mantra. So some of us for a few minutes, others for several hours every day are chanting on our little mala, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, with the prayer, please engage me in serving you with love. But just sitting and doing that is not enough. It has to be balanced with a life where we're actually trying to serve with love. than our minds. Our minds are busy, working as fast as anybody else's. Arjuna his mind was working as fast as Duryodhana's. But one was doing with greed and envy, and one was doing it with love. They apparently were doing the same things, but their motivation and the result was completely different. So as we're chanting, the mind drifts away, we just bring it back to the sound of the mantra. It's very simple. That's why mantra meditation is so much recommended in this age. We just hear. Hare Krishna, we're hearing Krishna, and that name itself, that mantra itself is divine. That mantra itself is a connection with Krishna. And then the mind naturally races away. But the intelligence should be like a mother. Sometimes a little child races into naughty places and the mother brings him back. So the intelligence, when it sees the mind racing, brings back. And how do we bring back? Just by hearing. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then when our meditation and prayer, that time is completed, then we apply the same principle and the same prayer in how we do what we do in our life. Then the external and the internal are harmonized. And we become transformed. And then we have something so beautiful, so valuable, so precious to share with others in whatever we do. This is not just an opportunity. It's actually the most important responsibility that each and every one of us has. Living a dharmic life, cultivating this inner foundation through satsang, sadhana, and sadachar is the foremost responsibility of a parent, of a wife, of a husband, of a child to the parents. It's the foremost responsibility in whatever occupation we have. Does that answer your question?
It did. It did.
Thank you.
Do we really have choices in our lives? As far as I read your book, you got a dream, come to India. You missed your train in Vrindavan. So do we actually have choices? We think we have choices, but do we really have?
That's a beautiful question. Thank you. Simultaneously, we have no choice and we have choice. Just like an example, the way the laws of karma work is when we do something, we do it by choice. But then the result of that is not our choice. If you hurt somebody, it's your choice to hurt them or not hurt them. You choose to hurt them, then the karma of being hurt, you have no choice.
But isn't the thought to hurt also predetermined?
It may, no, yes and no. The inclination is because we have hurt people in the past, but still we have the choice. An example, somebody chooses to smoke a cigarette. Then they choose to smoke a second cigarette. Then they choose to choose a fifth and a sixth. And soon they're addicted to cigarettes. And it's almost like they don't have any choice. People aren't born addicted to cigarettes. They're addicted to cigarettes because usually when you first smoke a cigarette, it's horrible. You're coughing, but because you think it's cool and everyone else is doing it and you look like you're very special when you're smoking cigarettes and people will look up to you, you smoke them out of choice. And then you become addicted. And that addiction came, that habit came because of choices you made. But even if you're terribly addicted, you still have a choice to give it up. It's just more difficult. So I'll give another analogy. There's an airplane. Can you hear? There's people on that airplane. Let us say that airplane is going to Singapore. Whoever got on that airplane, it was their choice. People's choices may be influenced. Some may be going because they're influenced because they may make a lot of money there. Some may be going because they want to go on a vacation and see the fountains there. Some may be going to Singapore because they have loving relatives there. There may be different reasons, but they've all chosen to get on that plane. Now, once you're on the plane, do you have a choice where you're going to go? Absolutely not. You're going to Singapore. But you have a choice what you're going to do on the plane while you're going. You have a choice to read the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. You have the choice to read a movie or look at a movie. You have a choice to go to sleep. You have a choice to argue with your husband or wife. You have a choice to eat meat or vegetarian food. You have so many choices. You don't have a choice where you're going, but you have a choice what you're going to do on your way. And then when you get to Singapore, you have so many, you're in Singapore, but you have so many choices where you're going to go, what you're going to do, how you're going to be. So there are certain things that are predestined because of our choices of the past. But at every moment we have a choice to respond to the situation we're in. Choice is never taken away from us, and our destiny is based on the choices we make. What's happening now is due to choices of the past, and what happens in the future is according to our choices now.
Just to understand better, as you had certain addictions, but on your journey to India, you had certain experiences due to which you could give up those habits. But everybody may not get those experiences, or everybody may not have those opportunities. Did you really have a choice, or it was an experience which made you leave?
At every moment, you have to make a choice to take an opportunity. Never comes automatically. Doors open, but still we have a choice to go through the door or go the other way. I hitchhiked to India, but at every moment I had a choice to start hitchhiking back. But somehow or other, I chose to come here and see how nice it is. I get to be with you and answer your question.
Thank you.
Is there any other question?
Can I ask one more?
Please.
You said you came here to search for the truth. What kind of truth you came to search for, and what was the truth you were looking at?
Everyone's looking for Krishna, but we don't know it until Krishna reveals himself. I was looking for meaning. I was looking for purpose. I was born and raised in America. I saw wealth. I saw power. I saw Hollywood movies. Our house had a nice telephone. India, they didn't have telephones hardly in those days. You had to call operators. In the 1960s in America, there were beautiful highways. There was a gigantic middle class, upper class. There was very, very very equipped educational institutions. It was the most powerful, wealthy country in the planet. But I saw that most of the people, their lives were just like empty shells. Like people are sick in bed and you put beautiful cosmetics on their face. Doesn't make them any happier. At least, when they look in the mirror, they think they're happier, but they're not. That's what I saw. Just a country where there's shallowness, emptiness inside, and everyone was trying to be happy by just putting a bunch of cosmetics on their faces. The cosmetics of wealth, big house, a lot of fame, being beautiful, being strong physically, athletics. I saw so much greed and so much envy and so much confusion, so much hypocrisy. I revolted against it. But then I saw the people who were revolting with me, the counterculture, the civil rights movement to a large extent. There was the same type of hypocrisy, just for a different cause. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. That's the principle of Dharma. I understood that in order for life to be meaningful and purposeful and fulfilling, if I want to contribute anything really of substance to the world, I have to learn how to love and be compassionate. And that's a spiritual journey. That's truth. Who am I? Where am I coming from? Where am I going? What's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? This is truth. Philosophers, scientists have been asking these questions all over the world forever, looking for truth. Not a shallow, superficial truth. I saw people who had so much, but they were suffering so bad. I don't want that. Is that what life is about? You just decorate your body. You get a big house. Then you die. Is that all life's about? We love our family, but everything's ripped away from us. Is there something more? It just so happens that every spiritual tradition that's ever existed since the beginning of time speaks about a supreme being, a soul, a purpose of life. And as I was searching for the truth, I found that people who were spiritually connected were the most peaceful, the most beautiful, the most humble, and the most transformative people on the planet. I was looking for that. The Brahma Sutra tells, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. The Vedanta Sutra is the summary essence of all the Vedas. There's 4 Vedas, there's 108 Upanishads, there's 18 Puranas, there's Mahabharata, there's Ramayana, there's Itihastas, there's so many Samhitas. But the essence of all is the Brahma Sutra. And what's the first verse of Brahma Sutra? Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now that you are a human being, seek spiritual truth. That's the purpose of life, to find that truth. And tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritapurvakam tadami buddha yogam tam yogi. That truth is within us. And the gurus, the sages, the scriptures, they teach us how to connect with that truth that's within ourselves. So I was seeking that truth. And through my journey, I found Param Satyam Dhimahi. That the Supreme Being, in the fullest, sweetest, most inclusive, loving existence, was Krishna. Krishna has many names. The God of Christianity, the God of Judaism, the God of Islam, the God of every tradition. The Vedas tell that Buddha was an incarnation of Vishnu, long before he even came to this world. So the very essence is that the Supreme Being, Parabrahman. And that Supreme Being has taken many forms and many incarnations throughout history. And I was finding that truth in various forms. It was so beautiful, so wonderful. And then somehow or other, as you said, I was stranded in Vrindavan. I was on a train to Amarnath in Kashmir for going for the Amarvati Amarnath Yatra. And my train stopped, and I got out to drink some water and breathe some fresh air, and the train left without me. I couldn't get in. It was too crowded. And I was stranded in this lonely place at 5 o'clock in the morning. The day before, I was in Kashi. I had already been traveling around India for about a year. And I was finding so many pieces of truth, but what is my path? How am I going to go deep into that truth? And I was praying to Kashi Vishwanath, Lord Shiva, please show me my path. And I felt something beautiful. I felt not a voice, but just an assurance that Lord Shiva was giving me that yes, your path will be revealed. And I was sure it was going to be at Amarnath, in that cave. But on the way, I got stranded in the station in the dark. I didn't know where I was. I asked a sadhu who was sitting on the railway platform, where am I? He said, this is Mathura. Mathura is Krishna's birthplace, and today is Janmashtami. So he took me to the Janmastan. And I went to Vrindavan because I heard so many things about Vrindavan while I was in Mathura. I walked along the Yamuna. And after 3 days, I was going to get onto another train from Mathura to Amarnath. But the day I was going to leave, I got typhoid fever. And I couldn't walk, and I couldn't move, and I was so close to death. And I was brought to the Ramakrishna Hospital. It was a charity hospital. And my doctor's name was Krishna Gopal. And he had no medicine to give me because they didn't have any money, and I was charitable ward. There was about 25 beds in one room. And they just gave me some glucose water. And the water was probably more dangerous. That's probably where I got I had typhoid fever. That's where I got the typhoid fever, from water. They were just mixing some glucose powder in it. But anyways, I was pretty sick, so I couldn't travel. So opportunities were there because of my choices to be seeking and yearning and learning. I was seeking God. So if you seek God, God reveals himself. Ye yatamam prapadyante. And by the time I got better, I was thinking, there is no sweeter understanding of God, no more deep and inclusive and beautiful conception of God's love and the devotee's love than the concept of Radha Krishna. So that's how it was revealed to me. And the greatest joy of life is to share Radha Krishna's love with the world.
Thank you.
No more questions, I hope. Thank you very much. Thank you all so very much.
We thank you, Your Holiness, for this most beautiful, spiritual, enlightening talk. Truly indebted to you.
Thank you for your being the goddess of graciousness and goodness.
Truly been our fortune to be here today. And we really would like to thank the Narang family for opening the doors of their home and their hearts to have us here. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time out on this eclipse day to be in this auspicious presence of His Holiness Radhanath Swami.
Can I say something about an eclipse?
Please, please, thank you.
It's the story of life. Because the moon is full. Yes? The moon is full right now. It's just that we can't see it because there's, well, during an eclipse. This is blocking. By Krishna's grace, I'm being blocked. But during an eclipse, the moon is full, but we cannot see because there's something in front of it. Similarly, a cataract in an eye. Everything's clear in front of us, but because the cataract is covering, we can't see anything properly. So when the eclipse passes from the moon, and we're able to see the moon. When the cataract is removed for the eye, we could see everything as it is. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. So similarly, Krishna tells in Gita, for one who sees me everywhere and everything in me, for that person I'm never lost, nor they ever lost from me. So Krishna's in everyone's heart. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesha arjuna tishtati. Why can't we see Krishna in our own heart? Why cannot we see Krishna in other people's hearts? Why cannot see everything as the energy of our beloved Lord, Sri Krishna? It's all there. That's the way it is. Because the eclipse of avidya, of ignorance, the eclipse of ahankar, the ego is there. The cataract. And what is spiritual life about? It's just removing that eclipse. Allowing the eclipse to pass so that we can actually see the beautiful Vrindavan Chandra, the beautiful full moon of God's blessings within us and all around us. Thank you for inspiring us in so many wonderful ways. And I wish to thank everyone.